Hey everybody, this is Adam Bittner, Seth Engle at Ohio Stadium in Columbus after Penn State drops a 20-12 decision against Ohio State. Seth, it was ugly offensively. The defense, as always, kept them in the game. It really did feel like, kind of a Groundhog Day for Penn State. You're 90% as good as Ohio State for a lot of the way, and you don't make the key plays, notably that big second quarter drive where you take the holding penalty on what should have been a Curtis Jacobs return for a strip sack for a touchdown. Then you take a couple penalties to magnify that mistake, and Ohio State scores the touchdown. 14-point swing, always going to be difficult for Penn State to overcome against a team this good.
Yeah, that was, I don't know. It was a surprise. We both had Penn State winning this game. And it didn't look like until that kind of garbage time touchdown they scored in the fourth quarter there that they were even attempting to score touchdowns. Like, they weren't even close. They were 1 for 16 on third downs. Is dreadful. We talked a little bit post-game, but, they would have these short yardage third or even fourth down attempts that we see they do the QB sneaks on. They wouldn't run them this time. There were a lot of third and longs as well, like Franklin mentioned as a reason for the third down failure. Pass game couldn't capitalize. Run game, after Nick Singleton broke off for finally a 20-yard rush this year, couldn't do much after that drive. So just a massive disaster on the offensive end, and defense, like you said, held it down.
Seth, I know we're going to talk about this a lot more on the podcast this week. Those air on Wednesday, so make sure you're subscribed to the Post-Gazette YouTube channel to check that out. But James Franklin came in confident after the game, said, I think you just watched two of the best teams in college football. He didn't sound as somber as some of his players did afterward. He liked things that he saw, and that has not sat well in the early reaction online. Fans are already calling for him to be fired. How do you look at James Franklin leading this program, given what transpired today and given what's transpired over the last decade? He's now 1-9 against Ohio State.
I still watched the first 6 games of this year, and this team is still one of the best teams in the country. Maybe it's not a top 4 team, a playoff team, maybe it's not ready for that yet, but this is a competitive program that basically, outside of that elite status that Penn State was trying to, kind of get into today with a win, Penn State is still, the cream of the crop of the greats, of the great programs, maybe not elite yet. We'll see what happens against Michigan. But no, it's not time to fire Franklin, after a loss like this. I know it's annoying, for Penn State fans to see Ohio State losses every year for 7 straight. But this is it's not the end of the world. Trust me, Penn State fans, you guys have it better than you probably think, especially entering a 14-team playoff. A 12-team playoff next year, and an expanded Big Ten. So,
that's the salvation for me, Seth, is you're going into a 12-team format next year. Maybe you can find a path around this program that beat you today, that has beaten you so badly. You can beat some different teams. You're not going to play them every year in this expanded Big Ten with no divisions. You're going to play the Washingtons, the Oregons, the USCs. Maybe you match up better with them. Maybe you get around them. I think that's the best argument for James Franklin at this point. I think if the format wasn't changing, I think you could have a conversation about, has he reached the ceiling? If you can't get into a 14 playoff, how long can you keep the same guy doing the same things over and over? But fortunately for Penn State, you're going to get a second chance here. The defense, Seth, was really good. What do you think, looking ahead to Michigan on November 11th, about this team's ability to win at home? I think you and I, we were talking in the press room after, think Ohio State was the better matchup for Penn State, and that it's going to be a tough call. It's going to be tough to expect Penn State to win in that game, but what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, this was a Penn State defense that played phenomenally, against an offense that was a little banged up. I think that should be mentioned is, Travion Henderson didn't play today. They're starting running back, and Emeka Egbuka, the number 2 wide receiver, was also out, and Penn State really handled business in that scenario. When you have a team like Michigan that destroyed Penn State on the ground last year, if Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are completely healthy, that is a bit of a worry. And that's a team whose defense, is just, solid. Their offensive line is better than Ohio State's. Penn State handled business on the defensive end and just could not do enough on offense. Drew Aller was fighting back tears. You know, you said, "I sucked." That's a direct quote.
It's the most emotional I've seen a Penn State quarterback after a loss.
It was something. But you know, if Penn State wants to go to the places that they want to go to, Drew's going to have to, you know, get the group back together and kind of hash out some of these mistakes. And you can't look in the transfer portal now. You know, you can't bring in a new recruit. This is their team, and they're going to have to work with it.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot more to talk about on the podcast this week. Take a couple days to digest. So again, subscribe to Post-Gazette Sports on YouTube. Also check out our our podcast feed for plenty more Steelers and Penn State content, Pirates, Penguins, everything you could want. For now, we're going to sign off and talk to you later in the week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our Apple Podcast channel for more podcast content. Click below for a special deal of 99 cents for a 3-month subscription to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.